Why is it that no matter what diet we try, what specialist we see, what healing modality we pour our last ounce of hope into, we just don't get better? Why do some people remain sick for years, sometimes decades, even when their bodies should have responded to treatment by now? Is it genetics? Is it bad luck? Or could it be something far more uncomfortable, something buried deep within our psyche? What if the very thing keeping you from healing is you? Stay with me. We're not going to toss around cliches or give you another list of 10 ways to raise your vibration. This one's different. This is about shadow work, self-inquiry, and a quiet truth that once seen cannot be unseen. Before we begin, if you're someone who loves expanding your mind and exploring the deeper layers of life, make sure to subscribe to Fractal Wisdom so you never miss the conversations that truly matter. And now, let me tell you something that might sound strange at first, but you've probably felt it on some level. There are people who are afraid of getting well, not consciously, of course not. On the surface, we all want to feel good again, to be pain-free, full of energy and alive. But underneath that desire, there's fear. There's identity and protection. See, illness can become a home, a familiar place, and a role we unconsciously play. For some, it's the only way they've ever received affection, attention, or permission to rest. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And isn't that what staying unwell sometimes is? A diversion. A way to avoid the terrifying blank space of who we'd be without our suffering. Because once the illness is gone, then what? Who will love us if we're no longer the one who needs help? Who are we if not the person who is struggling? And maybe the scariest question of all, what if we get better but still feel empty? That's a weight most people don't know how to carry. Let's ground this a little. Have you ever asked someone, "Why do you want to get better?" Almost always, the answer is the same. "I just want to feel good." That sounds reasonable, but let's unpack that. Feeling good isn't a purpose, it's a state, a temporary one. And if there's no deeper reason beneath that, no meaning to anchor it, then the body, the subconscious, might not have any real incentive to change. This is where Carl Jung's theory of the shadow comes into play. He believed that there are parts of ourselves we push into the unconscious because they're too painful, too shameful, or simply too inconvenient to deal with. But those parts don't disappear. They fester. They manifest, sometimes as anxiety, sometimes as destructive patterns, and sometimes as physical illness. It's a psychological rebellion from within, a protest of a deeper need that has been ignored for far too long. So when we say, "I want to heal," the subconscious asks, why? If your identity is wrapped around being ill, if illness has become your protector, if you've built your whole life around the limitations of your condition, then healing might feel like death to the ego. That's the trap. And it's invisible. Let's talk about something raw, quiet, but powerful. The idea that maybe you've been sick for so long, you wouldn't even know who you are without the sickness. I don't mean just physically sick. I'm talking about chronic fatigue, anxiety that never really leaves, emotional heaviness that lingers like a fog, or a diagnosis that turned into a permanent lens through which you now view your entire life. At first, the illness is something you fight. You want it gone. You Google solutions at 2 a.m. You try diets, yoga, retreats, supplements with names you can't pronounce. You chase healing like it's a finish line. But then something strange happens. Quietly, almost invisibly. You adapt to it. Your routine shifts. Your schedule changes. Your relationships begin to orbit around your symptoms. Conversations revolve around your recovery. Your body stops being a vehicle for joy and starts becoming a constant negotiation. And slowly, without realizing it, the illness stops being the intruder. It becomes part of the furniture, a character in your life story, a label, and a home. Now, if this is hitting something deep, breathe. You're not broken. You're human. You're not doing this on purpose. No one chooses to stay unwell, but the subconscious is crafty. It's always playing a longer game, rooted in survival. And for some, illness becomes the safest way to be seen. Just think about it. If the only time people slowed down to care for you was when you were unwell, your mind logged that. If you only ever got a break, a rest, some compassion, when you said, "I'm not feeling well," your nervous system filed that as a winning strategy, even if it hurts, even if it's killing you, because it gave you what you needed: permission to pause, to be loved, to be nurtured, and to not perform. Now, Jung also explored what he called the shadow self. These are the parts of us we reject, suppress, or simply refuse to acknowledge. And the shadow doesn't just sit quietly, it leaks. Sometimes, it leaks through sabotage. You say you want to heal, but you skip the practices that support your well-being. You miss appointments. You resist the very changes that might help you grow. Other times, it leaks through the body. As Jung said, the body is the unconscious made visible. Let that sink in. The body is the unconscious made visible. Your fatigue might not just be about mitochondria. Your migraines might not just be about stress. Your tension, your tight chest, your stomach that always hurts, might be your body trying to say what your soul has buried. But here's where it gets more complicated. Even when people say they want to get better, they often don't have a clear why. Just feeling good is not a purpose. It's not a North Star. It's vague. It's soft. It doesn't stir the heart. It doesn't wake you up in the morning and pull you out of the fog. So healing becomes this thing we chase without direction. And when you don't know where you're going, it's easier to stay where you are, even if where you are is painful. Because pain is familiar, predictable, and safe in its own way. I want to ask you a question. Take a second before answering it. If you woke up tomorrow and your illness was gone, completely, what would you do with your time, your energy, and your life? Would you write that book? Start a new relationship? Launch a project? Or would you feel empty and lost? That question, for many, is terrifying. Because for some, illness is a distraction from purpose. A perfectly valid excuse to not leap, not risk, not stretch. It's not laziness, it's protection. Your subconscious might be thinking, if I get well, then I'll be expected to be someone I'm not ready to be. That belief can override every healing protocol in the world. So what now? This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about seeing clearly. About loving yourself enough to ask, what is this pain protecting me from? Because once you see the protection, you can begin to release it. You can start to create a new identity. Not as the sick one, not even as the healed one, but as someone with purpose, with meaning, with a reason to live that lights up your nervous system and makes your subconscious want to move toward vitality. Healing isn't just the absence of symptoms, it's the presence of self. And the body, the mind, the spirit, when they sense a deeper why, they begin to reorganize. Subconsciously, energetically, and biologically. It's not woo, it's evolution. Your biology responds to belief. Not just any belief, meaningful belief. Let's go deeper. By now, you might have started to notice something. That healing isn't just about the physical, it's about identity, meaning, and direction. And that begs the question, if I am not my illness, then who am I? That space between the old self and the new one, that's where people get stuck. It's like standing in an empty hallway, knowing the old door is closed behind you, but having no clue what the next one looks like, or if it even exists. That uncertainty is scary, because the human psyche craves certainty more than happiness. This is why so many people unconsciously attach themselves to the familiar pain, because the brain interprets familiar as safe. The mind might say, I want change, But the nervous system whispers, only if it doesn't feel like death. So let's talk about this identity shift, because without it, true healing often stalls. When someone says, I just want to feel good, it usually means they haven't yet designed a vision that's emotionally compelling enough to override the inertia of their old life. Carl Jung spoke a lot about individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your true self. Not the self your parents wanted you to be, not the one molded by trauma or shaped by fear, but the self that arises when you integrate both your light and your shadow. Healing isn't just about getting rid of what's wrong. It's about welcoming back the parts of you that had to be exiled just to survive. So maybe the question isn't, how do I fix myself? But rather, what parts of me have I forgotten? What dreams did you tuck away because there was no room for them while you were managing your symptoms? What version of yourself did you stop exploring because it didn't fit the role of the sick one? This is where purpose enters the scene, not in the lofty, buzzwordy kind of way, but in a grounded, soul-level way. Your subconscious won't allow you to step into a new identity unless it believes there's something worth stepping into. Purpose doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to launch a nonprofit or write a bestseller. Sometimes purpose is simply having a reason to get out of bed that feels more powerful than your pain. It could be your art, your curiosity, your desire to love more fully, to be present with your children, to travel, to feel alive in your own skin again. These are not just hopes. These are calls to your biology. Because when the soul gets a yes, the body begins to respond. Here's something to try. Not a trick, not a hack, just a shift. Start asking yourself this question every morning. If I were already well, how would I live today? Not when I'm well. Not if I heal, but as if. Not to fake it, but to begin giving your nervous system a taste of what safety feels like outside of suffering, even in small ways. Maybe it's going outside for 5 minutes with your tea and letting the sun touch your face. Maybe it's emailing that person you've been too tired to connect with. Maybe it's sketching something, dancing for 2 minutes, saying no to something that drains you. Tiny steps. Every choice you make in alignment with a future self rewires your brain away from survival and toward possibility. And that is where the identity shift begins. Not with affirmations, but with action, however small, rooted in meaning. Now, I want to be real. This isn't linear. You'll wobble. Some days, the pain will speak louder than the vision. That's okay. The point is not perfection. It's progression. It's consistency. You are not trying to become someone else. You are trying to become who you were before the world taught you to be afraid. True healing isn't just the absence of disease. It's the integration of purpose. It's remembering why your life matters and aligning your choices with that truth, again and again. So when the body asks, why should I get better? You'll finally have an answer that makes sense, because I have something to live for. And here's something that might challenge everything you've been taught about getting better. What if the real reason you haven't healed is because healing itself has been misunderstood, not by you or by the world? We've been conditioned to think healing is about returning to who we were before we got sick, back to normal. But what if that old version of you, your routine, your relationships, your beliefs, your way of being, was part of what created the imbalance in the first place? So many healing journeys fail, not because people don't try hard enough, but because they're trying to heal into an identity that no longer fits. It's like trying to squeeze your spirit back into shoes you outgrew years ago. This is why Carl Jung emphasized transformation over repair. Jung didn't see illness, whether emotional, spiritual, or physical, as something to simply fix. He saw it as a messenger, a symbolic expression of the parts of the psyche that had been suppressed, silenced, or split off. He wrote, "We don't solve our problems. We grow larger than them." And that's the key. Healing isn't about erasing the pain. It's about growing into a version of yourself that no longer needs the pain to communicate. Here's where most wellness advice goes wrong. It focuses only on behavior. Do this protocol. Eat this food. Take this supplement. Meditate for 20 minutes. Take cold showers. Take warm ones. Read 15 books. Detox. Retox. Biohack your way into bliss. And you know what? Some of that might help. It's not useless, but it's incomplete. Because if your subconscious is still terrified of what's on the other side of healing, no amount of leafy greens or red light therapy is going to convince it to let go of the safety it found in being unwell. We're talking about existential healing here. This is soul-level stuff, and soul-level stuff doesn't respond to discipline. It responds to meaning. Have you ever heard of secondary gain? In psychology, it refers to the hidden benefits a person might get from staying sick. It's not manipulative. It's not dishonest. It's unconscious. Maybe being unwell means people finally listen to you. Maybe it allows you to slow down without guilt. Maybe it protects you from facing a scary truth, like the fact that you're deeply unhappy in your career, or that you're terrified of intimacy, or that success might actually make you feel even more alone. So, healing becomes a threat, because healing would mean confronting all of that. It would mean change, and change, even good change, can feel like death to the ego. This is why people self-sabotage at the brink of breakthroughs, why symptoms mysteriously resurface after a good week, why wellness can feel strangely disorienting, because something inside still believes, I'm not ready. So how do you change that? First, you stop asking, how do I get rid of this? And start asking, what is this trying to show me? That question shifts everything. It turns the illness from an enemy into a guide, a sacred messenger, and a mirror. And if you listen carefully, without judgment, you might hear the whisper underneath it all. I've been trying to protect you. That's not weakness, that's intelligence. But intelligence without awareness becomes entrapment. So your job isn't to fight your illness, it's to outgrow the need for it. And that happens when you begin to answer the deeper questions. Who are you becoming? What does wholeness look like in your life? Where are you still betraying yourself in the name of safety? What truth are you finally ready to stop avoiding? Because when you start living in alignment with truth, something shifts. Not immediately, not magically, but profoundly. The body relaxes, the mind unclenches, the spirit remembers, and healing starts to become less about symptoms and more about sovereignty. That's a word we don't hear enough in wellness circles. Sovereignty. The ability to be in your own authority, to belong to yourself again. When you are sovereign, you stop outsourcing your power to doctors, gurus, or external outcomes. You start listening to your body like it's an ancient, wise friend. You treat your pain not as a mistake, but as a map. You create a life that's so nourishing, so aligned with your deeper self, that illness no longer fits the story. Not because it's cured, but because it's no longer needed. So this is the invitation. Not just to heal, but to evolve. To build a new way of living that doesn't require suffering to slow you down or force you inward. To become someone who lives in integrity with who they truly are, even if that means letting go of everything that once felt safe. You don't need to be perfect to heal. You need to be honest. And when you begin to live from that place, even quietly, even slowly, healing becomes not just possible, but inevitable. If you've made it through this entire video, thank you. Really. If something in this video echoed a truth you've been afraid to name, don't keep it locked inside. Share your reflection in the comments and share this video with someone who really needs to hear this. And if you're walking this path of self-discovery, hit the subscribe button. We're building a space for people who are done chasing surface solutions and ready to meet the deeper truth. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning.